Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got a review for you of these little guys right here. These are the Real Steel Metamorph Compact pocket knives, which I'm probably just going to call the Mini Morph because there's, yeah, either way, Metamorph Compact right here. And actually, before I go any further, I want to thank actually two different vendors for providing these guys my way. This one was sent to me a long time ago by Indiana Knives, and is their M390 and micarta version. This guy was sent to me by Lamnia Knives, which is a Finnish dealer. Indiana, of course, Indiana Knives being in Indiana, as you might expect. But anyways, Lamnia sent me this guy, which is an exclusive for them, with the VG10 steel as well as the bright blue handle finish. Both of these guys, though, I had the Indiana one a long time ago. I did the disassembly a long time ago, talked about it, gave some impressions. The problem is, once these guys sold out, the Metamorph Compact just wasn't around anywhere for a while. They finally come out now. You can get this version from Lamnia as well as other versions for other makers, including Indiana Knives has some of the gray versions. But anyways, as a result, though, it didn't make sense to do the review for a while. Now I finally got it, and thank you to both of these stores, that is, for allowing me to check this guy out. Next thing, let's do some size comparison, and I'll just go ahead and use one of them here. Here we have the Ontario Rat number 2, and what we see here is blade length's a little longer, although the handle size is pretty similar. Here we have the Spyderco Delica. Again, similar handle size, much longer, sharp in blade length. Here we have the Spyderco PM2, which is about the same, actually, in sharp in length, but a markedly larger knife. And then, actually, maybe the most relevant comparison is against another Indiana Knives exclusive from the past. This is the Real Steel Metamorph in a Blue G10 and N690 steel, and this is the original version of the Metamorph. Hard to do that one under camera, right? But anyways, nonetheless, this is the original Metamorph here, and this is the compact version. So there's your size comparison there. Then finally, maybe the most relevant size comparison, as always, is against a ruler, in which place we will see that this comes in just over 3 inches. It's basically 3 inches, but if the cop really doesn't like you, that's a felony, right? So anyways, there is that. And then, like I said, these are two different exclusive versions. This one through Indiana Knives, this one through Lamnia. And like I said, this guy is about $62 through Lamnia, and Indiana's got a gray G10 one at the moment, I believe, running about $60. So anyways, there we go. Let's go ahead and jump into the good, the great, the bad, and the ugly of these very interesting knives right here. So on the good side, to start with, the size of these is very nice. These are very, very compact knives. I mean, if I put these guys, I put this guy next to the Delica here, what we see is it's a little tiny bit thicker than the Delica, but it's just about it fits entirely within the footprint, basically, of the knife. It is very, very small and compact, which I appreciate very, very much. It's also relatively lightweight, all things considered. If we weigh up the micarta version here, we're coming in at 1.9 ounces. Way up the aluminum, we're coming in at 2.3. Either way, well under an ounce an inch. That is a nice lightweight sort of size and makes this really, really easy to carry, which I appreciate very much. Next thing, the action on these guys is good to go. Both of them being roughly equivalent in action and, nice and smooth on the close, nice and smooth on the open, very easy to open. I gotta say, I appreciate that. And this flipper tab here, we'll talk about it a little bit later on, but it allows for very easy index finger opening, which is very different than your classical sort of thumb-based front flipper opening, which you can still do. But you know what? This works very well for that kind of thing. This kind of top flipper thing is interesting, and it's a little different, and I think it works quite well. Next thing, these guys, like I said, are very, very lightweight, which makes them a really excellent choice just for daily carry as well as for situations where you need some blade and you don't need a whole lot of weight to go with them. Then finally, there are some nice details in the design. Ostap Hell is a designer who I definitely appreciate very much. But you see things in there like this little groove. Actually, I'll use the Lamnia version just because it's a little cleaner because you're not looking at the micarta, right? But you have this nice little groove in the back spacer going into a hidden lanyard hole, which is the very best thing a lanyard can be, hidden, right? It is a nice flush clip on there, and what I mean by that is if we look inside there is no screws going, all the screwing is done internally. So there's nothing on the side of the clip here. It's nice and clean. And you can get your entire pocket underneath there, so to speak, and it's not stopping part of the way, giving this guy a very nice deep carry, which I appreciate very much. And then just generally speaking, there's nice little bits of jimping here. The top of this is very nicely scalloped. The cutout is done well. And even this little cut here and the contouring overall, this is just a well-designed knife. I like the Metamorph originally, and I like this mini version as well. I think it's a very, very nice choice. And so that's good. And to me, all of that is the good, is that it's got some very nice details. It's lightweight with easy index finger operation, a nice action, great size, and it just really easy to carry. On the great side, to me, the blade is absolutely what's great here. And the blades are a little different depending on what you're looking at here. And the micarta one here, we're looking at an M390 steel, which is an absolutely great steel, by the way. No problems there. On this guy, we have a VG10 steel, which is one of those steels that's fine at a budget price point. And so in both cases, though, we have a nice thin edge here coming down to a very nice fine tip, which I appreciate. And just cuts very well and holds well in the hand. And it is a good knife for actually cutting things. I appreciated that very much. Carrying this guy, this is a fine functional tool for cutting, and it has just a very, very nice thin blade, which I appreciate a lot. So, to me, that's what's great. It has a great blade. Okay. On the bad side. Start with price on these guys. So the Indiana Knives one, like I said, is sold out at the moment, and I don't know what the next run's going to come in at, so I'm not going to give you a price. You know, it was, I want to say 140 some odd originally, but, you know, who knows what the next one's going to come in at. And hopefully there will be a next one. I have no indication that there will be immediately, but that said, these are coming in at about $60 for the other versions with the VG10, etc. And you know what? Okay, right? It's not an oh my god value price, and I really do want to keep seeing companies like Real Steel pressing the value, getting get those prices down, right? Because that's sort of their role in the market, but at the same time, it's an absolutely fine price point, and this is a price point at which VG10 is about right. Right, it's not HCR13 MOV or something like that, which is a steel that no one should be using these days. Instead, but it's not, VG10 needs to stop right at around that price. So you know what, I think it's an okay price. I get no super objections to it. That's good. Next thing, this guy has this new revised flipper tab. And you know what, at some level it's nice. It allows this thing very, very easily. And if you like this kind of a reach around flip on a front flipper, then this flipper tab is going to be very appealing to you. The thing is, though, it makes it a little bit more difficult, and I'll use this one where I've got a little bit more traction. It makes it a little bit more difficult to do a classical kind of front flip opening relative to a more classical front flipper like, oh, come here, classical front flipper. I must have a classical front flipper around here. So, here we go. This will work. This is the Elijah Isham design Civivi McKenna. But here you've got a nice tab sticking up right in the front here, which makes it very easy to do that thumb style thing, but almost impossible to do the reach around from the top sort of affair. So, you know what? This flipper tab is going to really favor some opening methods over another. I much prefer doing this kind of thing rather than the classical lighter style front flip open. But you know what? It works. Next thing, on the micarta one here, unfortunately, the centering is not quite perfect. And on the aluminum one, it's doing fine. Not the end of the world, but at the same time, especially if you're doing a higher end version, you got to make sure you're doing it right. Then finally, actually not quite finally, the clip on both of these guys, although I like very much the fact that the screws are coming in from the inside and leaving it very clean, it is a little bit cheapy, right? And more importantly, the clip has this little kind of bow to it, and this is great. This ramp allows it to get onto the fabric of your pants, but the problem is it's a very shallow ramp there, and it doesn't level off. A lot of very good pocket clips will actually level off a little bit at the end, right? And that just makes for better ergonomics than having a pointy thing sticking up right off the top. And so I think this clip would have been better had they given it a little bit more push up and then they leveled it off. But more importantly, it just feels a little bit cheapy. It's relatively thin. It's, I get it, but it's just not super impressing me. So, and it doesn't have, like, for instance, on the original Metamorph, you had that little bit of, this just feels like a piece of bent metal. Not the end of the world, but it is a thing. Then finally, on the bad side, these guys both rattle. I don't know if you can hear that. I'm doing a little maraca solo. But at the same time, they do. There is a rattle in there, and I believe it to be from either the lanyard pin in the back here, or maybe one of the pins in the backspacer area. Either way, it's not necessarily a great thing. Is it the end of any worlds? No, not at all. And it'll be fine. You're not going to hear it as it's in your pocket, but at the same time, that's one of those little areas where it's like, guys, you could have gone a step further. You could have make it fit a little bit better than that. And you can, of course, by the way, fix that by adding a little bit of grease on the offending post, and that'll stop it from rattling. But at the same time, again, $60 is the price at which you need to start really caring. And a couple of those little details make it feel like they don't care so much. So to me, that's the bad, is that it's got a little bit of tactical maraca feel. It's got the cheapy clip on there, which I think is effective, but it could be tweaked a little bit. Centering ain't perfect on this guy. I'm not a big fan of the revised revised tab unless you really like that front opening like that. And the price is fine. Not amazing, not pushing the value, but it works. On the ugly front, there is only one ugly issue here, and that is on the aluminum versions. This is slippery. This was my same complaint about the original Metamorph with the aluminum scales. Is this is just a very slippery finish, and you can see that they've added a little bit of almost diamond plate to it, but it doesn't help. I really find this guy to be just too slippery to really use in, I mean, look, a lot of people are fine with it. A lot of people work it, but it just doesn't feel nearly as secure as when I get this guy in like the Mikata in hand, and it's just like, oh, wow, that's better. That's so much easier. And especially given that front flippers are a little bit fidgety, a little finicky, you kind of need to be repositioning your hand. I feel like I need much more contact on this guy than I do on this, where I can just kind of use my fingers here and grip everything down. I really don't care for this aluminum texture, and just like when they made the, well, that is when Indiana Knives had the Metamorph original made in the G10, and it made this a whole new world, I feel like doing this in the Mikata made the small one a whole new world. This aluminum, they need to find a better finish for, because right now, this is... Like, I talk about knives being not good in the Vaseline factory. This guy isn't good within 3 square miles of a tub of Vaseline, right? It's not a thing. That's a certain number of square kilometers for people who use same numbers. Anyways, I digress. This is just not a really particularly good handle finish, and it just makes this guy very slippery, and especially for a knife that is kind of finicky, that slip factor just doesn't do it for me. So to me, that's what's ugly here, is the aluminum here is just too damn slippery. They really need to fix that for future runs. Final conclusion, though, this is a fine little compact option for EDC, right? It's got a nice size. It carries really well. It's got a nice action, easy index finger flipping. It's super lightweight with some nice details and a great little blade. Price on these is not like, oh my god, but it's okay. The revised tab isn't probably going to be everybody's cup of tea. The centering wasn't perfect on this guy. The clip is kind of a little cheapy, right? It does have a little bit of rattling, and this needs to be a higher friction finish, absolutely by a mile. It looks attractive, no doubt about that, but the last thing that should be slippery is something that has a sharp edge on it, right? No. So, to me, at least, that's where I'm at. To me, honestly, my biggest feeling after this is that I'm sad that the Mikata ones aren't more readily in stock. I kind of wish that the Mikata version was the base model of this guy, right? I kind of wish that the Mikata, or at least a G10 version, like on this guy, I think I would just like that better, and it's just from the friction perspective. This is gorgeous. This is a really beautiful color, but at the same time, feeling just from the friction, even putting the steel aside, that felt more like a win, and so I'm kind of hoping that Indiana Knives will do another run, or somebody will, or maybe a run in G10 is something like that. But as it stands for me, the texture on this is enough to kick this guy out of my pocket. But I can definitely see that's not a problem for everybody. If you've handled the original Metamorph and you're like, dude, come on. Get your hands in order. And it may be a very different experience, by the way, with larger hands. It may not be as much of a trouble. It may just be my smaller hands than most given me, but nonetheless. I can see this design, though, nonetheless, being very appealing to some. Maybe you love the original Metamorph and you want to complete your collection, because I know there are devoted collectors of the Metamorph out there in the world. Maybe you're after something that's compact and pokey, and doesn't have to be the Metamorph, but it could easily be, or maybe you just like the looks of it, because it is a pretty attractive design. But either way, I can see $60 metamorphosing into this compact little guy for your everyday carry. Hope this has been interesting to you, and have yourselves an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.